In this video, we're going to talk about relations and functions. We're specifically going to discuss domain and range, what they are, how we use them, and then we're going to talk about functions, what they are, and how we can determine if a set of data is a function or not. So let's start off with domain and range. For domain and range, domain is thought of as the inputs, and range is thought of as the outputs. Now, what I like to think of when I'm talking about domain and range is a vending machine. In a vending machine, your input would be the code that you'd put in to tell the machine what item you want, and the output would be the snack from your vending machine. In math, domain and range relate to your x and your y variables. Domain is your x variable, usually, and range is your y variable. And the reason for this is if I put down this function of y equals 2x, we would say that y is the output that comes about when we input something into x. So let's say if we were to input 3 for x, the output would be 6, because 2 times 3 is 6. So x is our domain, and y is our range. Now, how can we use this to determine functions? Let's take a look at a little bit of what I call a map. In this map, we have domain on the left and range on the right. And the way this works is you have numbers in your domain, 2, 4, 7, 9, yada yada yada, whatever. These numbers match up with some value in the range based on the function that they go through. I'm going to abbreviate that FUNC for function. So you choose a number in your domain, the function applies its rules, does whatever it needs to it, and then you get your range as the outputs. And here, okay, 2, I put in 2, goes to the function, I output 7. I put in 4, goes to the function, I output 9, and so forth. So in this function, it's really just adding 5. And every domain partners up with its own range. That's how we know that this is a function. Every domain has one partner in the range. So 2 only partners up with 7. 4 only partners up with 9. You can't have 2 partners for the domain. But, as I'll show you in a moment, we could have multiple partners with the range. So let's take a look at a little bit different of a picture here that is still a function. In this domain and range map, we see that the domain of 2 partners up with 4, and the domain of 4 also partners up with 4. And then 6 has its own partner of 6. Now, I don't have an actual function that we're going through, but I'm just trying to show that you can have multiple domains create the same range. That is okay. This is still a function. And going back to my vending machine analogy, this is like, oh, if I typed into the vending machine, if I typed in A4, I'm going to get Skittles. But because there is more than one item of Skittles inside the vending machine, if I type in B4, I'll also get Skittles. It is 2 different inputs, but you're getting the same output, and in a function, that's okay. What you can't have in a function is, let's say that I had 6 not only going to 6, but to 8 as well. That is not a function. That's bad. So because of 6 having 2 partners, it wouldn't work. That's like saying, oh, I'm going to type in C10 in the vending machine, and it accidentally gives me 2 different items. Now that's great for us because of the vending machine, but it really breaks the function. So in these domain and range maps, if it is a function, your domains can only partner up with one range, but your ranges can partner up with multiple domains if necessary. Okay, now let's look at the very, very simple way to determine how a graph can tell us whether or not it is a function. Here I have 2 random graphs that I've drawn, and let's say that I want to determine whether or not one or the other or both is a function. The easiest way to determine that, if we don't have any sort of table that tells us what our values are, is to use what's called the vertical line test, and that's why this blue line is here. Pretend this is a perfectly straight up and down line. In the vertical line test, all we have to do is take it and drag it across the graph. And we want the graph to intersect the vertical line only at one place at a time. As long as that occurs, you have a function. So as you see here, there is nowhere where the blue line and the red line are meeting at more than one spot at a time. But if we go to the function over here, it starts off good, where it's only meeting at one spot, but then it intersects in 2 and 3 different areas. So this is not a function because it fails the vertical line test. You have to have it only intersect at one spot at a time throughout the entire function. And since here we have, right now, 3 different intersections at once, this is not a function. And that's it for this video. We've talked about domain and range, we've talked about functions, and we've talked about the vertical line test and how useful it is. Hope you found this video helpful, and good luck.